we were doing some sample projects to figure out, like, based on the patient conditions, what are the chances they will be readmitted to the hospital, right? So the insurance companies wants to know.
What can I expect during the technical round? Yeah.
Some might send you a test where you take like 24 hours to solve a test, or some might send you a case study, right? And you present that.
Let's say someone's getting rejected over and over. What would you recommend them? Like, how should they go back, start from zero?
There are more jobs than there are people, right? So there is one job
Yeah.
for you. So I think be positive on that.
Good evening, everyone. So we are back with another episode of Against All Odds. And today, as a guest, I have a really dear friend of mine who will be sharing his journey in data analytics. He's an expert in consulting, and his background is in analytics. Today, we want to talk about what are the different skill sets, tools, as well as knowledge needed to enter data analytics field. And if you're preparing in the midst of like going into for the interview rounds in 2025, we want to help you prepare them. So yeah, I will start with Ankit and share his journey in data analytics. So hi Ankit.
Hi, Ash.
Can you please share about your consulting journey in data analytics?
Absolutely. Yeah. First of all, like, hello everyone. This is Ankit. Like, I'm delighted to be here. Like, it's great that you're doing this, and I'm super excited for what you built here. About me, like, I have about 10 years of experience in data analytics. I started way back in 2012, back in India. I joined consulting company right out of college. So that's where I was trained in multiple technologies across data engineering, data analytics, business intelligence. Started with Oracle traditional technologies. I worked there for a couple of years. Then I decided to learn a lot more. So I decided to come to US. I did my Master of Science in Management Information Systems, which was kind of the extension of technology into more of the functional and the business side of it. So I went to UIC in Chicago, did my master's 1.5 years, and then again joined a consulting company in Chicago where I worked for 5 years. And then I was acquired by another company. So I've been in consulting for almost 12 years now. I worked across technologies from Oracle to Tableau, Power BI, cloud technologies, worked on R, Python, SQL, and also across industries from telecom to healthcare to insurance. So it's been a long journey, and I'm excited to share my 2 cents, whatever I can, to help your viewers.
Can you share the type of projects consultant would be doing when they join as a, let's say, associate? What kind
Mhm.
of projects they will be doing in data analytics specifically?
Yep, absolutely. So like whoever is starting in this field, they'll probably start as data analyst, associate, or analyst. And their job primarily is to support the managers and senior managers and the business leaders with the data. So the kind of project they could be put into is like, say, a telecom company comes to you and say like, our network quality has been going down compared to the competitors in last couple of years. So our customer retention is going down. So what can we do to find out which regions are kind of we are kind of losing to our competitors? So your role would be to support the data, like get some data from Data and kind of get that data and figure out, like, plot on Tableau or maps and see like what's the coverage across areas, has it changed in last 5 years, like were we always so bad, or we just something happened last quarter. So you kind of try to analyze the data, create those trends, and present that information to your manager, your leader, and that's what they can use to build a business case around it. So like, hey, this is what we found from the data, this is what you should be doing next. Maybe put a new tower, increase the power of the satellite there, or antenna there. So that's what, like, initially data analysts do, just kind of figure out some trends, some patterns from the data, and help your leaders to kind of create the business case.
Okay, so basically the way I understand is first they'll gather the data, they look at market trends and create a business case around it and present it in front of the leaders, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good insight because every time I'm like thinking about like those MBBs, I'm like, what do
Yeah.
they exactly do? What is the life behind the consulting, right? So I want my audience to know more about you, right? Like 10 years you've been in data analytics. What was the turning point? Like, was it your undergrad in India or was it something, your master's when you were in Chicago? That made you decide, okay, this is what I want to get into, and what was the reason behind getting into data analytics?
So it's been interesting. Like my journey started, say, out of compulsion, or that's the tradition back in India. There was
Yeah.
there was mostly jobs were in IT. So either you graduate from engineering, mechanical, civil, electronics, computer, whatever you graduate with, like most of the jobs were in IT. So that's what I did. Like I did electronics and communication engineering. So I had some background in C++, Java, a little bit of coding. So I kind of did campus placement. I was in consulting company. That's where I started to learn a lot more. They trained me on a couple of technologies, but it was until like 1 year after I started working when I really realized the power of analytics. So that's when R was coming up, or the Python. So we are moving from SQL or just querying to kind of more predictive analytics. So I did a project in R where we were doing some sample projects to figure out, like, based on the patient conditions, what are the chances they will be readmitted to the hospital, right? So the insurance companies wants to know if a certain medical facility is treating the patients well, right? So that was my kind of intriguing moment where, like,
Yeah.
this is what analytics could do, right? Like you could actually find patterns and figure out what can happen in future. Then did some retail projects where we did, like, everybody knows the diapers plus milk, right? The market basket analysis. That
Yeah.
was the first introduction where you can kind of think about placing objects using data, right? So the field was very interesting. So I decided, like, I need to learn a lot more. So uh, shortest path was to get an education, right? So I came to Chicago, did my MS, and that's where I worked a lot more on data mining, data science, data visualization. I learned Tableau, SQL, databases, and how those are related to business, right? Because
Yeah.
no technology is good enough if you cannot find a business case for that, right? So I think that's and I stayed ever since, right? Then and right now, like, I'm still kind of pursuing my part-time MBA. The reason behind that is, like, at some point in your career, if you want to grow, you need to take that technical knowledge and kind of cross over to the business side of it, right? Like, you need to now make sure that whatever you know, you should be using in a relevant business case. That's where you create more value.
Makes sense. Absolutely. So let me turn the question and how much is domain, like I know you were talking about healthcare patient, how much is domain knowledge important versus the technical knowledge when you're building these business cases, working for like top consulting companies, and these are like $1 million projects, right? Uh, how much, like if I'm entering as a consultant, how much domain knowledge do I need? Or is it more of like I can just have technical skills and that's enough for me? And when I say technical skills, I could know Python, SQL, or know how to use visualization tools such as Power BI and Tableau. Will that be sufficient enough to enter, or is it something I need to have healthcare knowledge? I need to have telecom knowledge, like you mentioned. Yeah.
I think when you're starting right out of college, or starting very early in your career, the domain knowledge is not that much important. I think your ability to learn, as well as the technologies that you know, are more important, right? So you should know the SQL, Python, R, couple of scripting languages. You need to know the cloud, because the quantity of data is increasing now, so everything is going to cloud. So you should know
Yeah.
about cloud. You should know about the basic stats, like mean, mode, or what's the regression
The
analysis, some sort of
regression
data
models.
science
Yeah.
tools, right?
Yeah.
So that's the basic minimum that you should know. And then and like, the one skill that you need everywhere is kind of communication, storytelling, right? So I think those 3 4 things you should absolutely have when you start. And I think once you work for 4 or 5 years, there comes a time where you can choose whether you want to stay on the tech side. So you become master of, like, data science, machine learning. You are kind of doing innovation stuff, right? Like, what modern technology can you use? You're learning about those. And then other path is kind of the management side, right? So you become like the functional lead, like you're kind of the healthcare lead in your organization. So that's where you need to learn a lot more about like, domain. And with domain, like, once you're out there selling work in a consulting company, you need to know the domain, right? Like, you need to make sure that whatever technology we have, you need to connect to the certain problem that business is facing, right? And you only do that when you know about the business, right? So, like, in healthcare, how can you make sure that your services, like if you're working for a hospital, how can you optimize the operations, right? So you need to understand basics of that function to kind of make sure that your technology is relevant.
Yeah, Ankit, that's maybe that's my question, like follow-up question. If I'm going into a manager role, like how much depth do I need in terms of domain knowledge?
You don't need to be a master of the technology, because that's where the other with client leaders are doing on that. But for example, like if you're working for a retail company, right? You're working, say, Walmart is the biggest retailer, right? You're going
Yeah.
for consulting there, right? So you need to know what they own, right? So there's a store, they have employees, they have supply chain, they have inventory, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about technology, like you should at least know what are the areas you can apply, right? So like for example, if you're optimizing inventory, you should know what is inventory turnover, right? So otherwise you cannot do consulting, right? Because the
Right.
client says
Yeah.
something you don't understand. So at
Yeah.
least you need to have the same lingo with the client. That's what at least you need. But I mean, and there's no kind of stopping, right? Like some people kind of become really like actuaries of a particular domain, and that's great, right? If you're interested. So any knowledge beyond that always helps, but at
Yeah.
least the common terminology between the client and business and your kind of understanding is absolutely required.
Okay, that's good to know. And if I'm going for technical round, let's say I'm going for data analytics associate
Mhm.
technical round, what can I expect during the technical round? Yeah.
So depending on like different companies, some people kind of do verbal interviews. Some might send you a test where you take like 24 hours to solve a test, or some might send you a case study, right, and you present that. But what generally happens in most cases is that there will be like a short test on SQL, because you need, every tool out there uses SQL, some form of SQL to query data, right? So you need to have a basic understanding of how to query the data, like how to get the data from database, how to deduplicate it. So at least like expect like 5 or 10 questions on that. And then since you're in data analyst role, right? So you need to learn Python or R. That's where like you will be applying some stats, right? Like find the mean, mode, or median of a data, right? If you're an output of a regression analysis, can you read like what does this data mean, right? So it would be like a combination of organized test where you solve like 20 questions in 1 hour, and then the follow-up would be the more subjective sort of round where they will ask you different questions, put you in different scenarios. Say, for example, you're working for this company, the sales are going down, the client has
Yeah.
come to us. What are you going to do, right? So just walk through your approach. So they want to know the basic understanding that you have, and how can you organize your thoughts and problems.
So are there any specific platforms where they can practice these questions? I know there are some lead.com or some technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you
I think
recommend?
lead code is one of the best if you're targeting like software development role, or like very core technical roles. I think it is one of the best platform where you can compete and get good questions. Other would be Kaggle. So Kaggle is one where like you get a lot of sample data, and you can try to learn on different. So like you'll find interesting problems, right? Because in most cases the business problems may not be as exciting as like say solving for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
FIFA World Cup, right? So you find those use cases there. You have all the data, and you can try and practice there. So I think those two are kind of the go-to ones, and then again like different platforms like Udemy or edX, Data Prep or Wall Street Prep, right? So these platforms kind of give you the combination of functional as well as technical skills.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, I mean the more you practice, better you get, but at
yeah.
least like some sort of basic courses will put you in a good state.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know because the technical round is the most scariest one. And yeah, I would recommend prepping for at least 3 to 6 months before you go for these big consulting
Yeah.
company interviews, right? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, as much as you can. Like, I mean, it's there's a lot of things to learn. I don't know all the things at this
Yeah.
point, right after 10 years.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, just try to get better every day.
Yeah. Okay. Do you see any, like, as we are progressing towards a lot of AI and Gen AI, do you see any shift in the market trends, how the companies are receptive, or do you think there are any changes in your projects as well as the cases you guys get after so much boom about Gen AI? Can you talk a little bit about how you
Yeah.
guys are helping other companies with Gen AI projects?
Absolutely. Yeah. So just talk about the trends, like your earlier question. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
on the macro level, I think the data and AI is shifting from good to have to must have. So
Okay.
like every company who wants to survive in the modern world, they will have to have a good data and AI strategy.
Okay.
So that's one big change. Second is like the amount of data coming to the companies is kind of exploded now, right? So you get data from every interaction with customer, every point in your business generates some data, right? So people are getting a lot of data,
Yeah.
and there's a requirement for real-time analysis, right? So it's not the
Okay.
case anymore now where you want to see the 1 week old data, right? It's now down to the seconds now. So that's the overall trend that's happening in the market. In consulting, there are four kind of clients that come to us, right? The first one is like they know the technology, they have the money, they're ready to invest, and they have the right use cases in mind to apply AI, right? Second would be like they have the money, they don't know the use cases, but they just want to see like what can they do, right?
Yeah.
And third one is like FOMO, right? So like they have no idea of technology, they just want to have AI in the systems, right? And the fourth one is like they are not even ready to adopt AI, right? Because of certain issues like
Yeah.
security, complexity, right? So these are four kind of clients that we come across. The main use cases where GenAI is now rapidly expanding is in the customer service, right?
Okay.
Because with the explosion of LLMs, NLPs, ChatGPT, all right, OpenAI, I think this is one part that is very easy to integrate AI into. So like if you're chatting to a customer service and a customer care agent is just kind of giving you answers from the script,
Yeah.
so the clients are now kind of willing to replace that chatbot, right? So that's one use case we see a lot. Second is like, say, if you're developing reports in Tableau, Power BI, now they're integrating a lot of GenAI and AI tools, right? So instead of kind of manually creating charts, you can just ask, like, give a command and give me a bar chart of the sales for last 5 years,
What
right?
tool is this? What is
It's like Tableau pulls, Power BI, Copilot, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
any tool is now integrating those AI agents in natively, so that much of the manual work or would be eliminated in that sense.
Okay. So, and this is like industry change you're seeing, like all the companies are adapting. Are you seeing any specific uptrend or like one specific domain of industry is picking up JNM or like let's say healthcare, telecom, or industrial and companies, or is there any specific you're seeing fintech, or is it they're adapting to these changes
Mhm.
more than the other one?
I think some industries have the native challenges, like healthcare has a HIPAA or like privacy thing, right? Finance has like a lot of complexity, and the cost of going wrong is kind of higher.
Yeah.
So what I see right now is that most companies are using AI for the front end stuff, right? Which is like not completely the core operations, right? So they're using for like marketing, content generation, social media campaigning, right? So that's where like where it's harmless in a way, I would say. Like
Less
if you
risk,
go,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
go wrong, you only lose money,
Yeah.
not the reputation, right? So that's those are the use cases or industries or the functions where AI is picking up. I think at some point, once we satisfy that AI is safe and it's not that complex, and you can have the same control, I
Yeah.
think the next use case I see would be the finance, right? So
Yeah.
most of the analysts, like you can just feed all the balance sheets, income statements. It will give you all the analysis. So I have done that for my school. So
Okay.
so yeah, you can use that for finance as well. And then I
Yeah.
think healthcare would follow at the end as well, right? Because I think in this time, whichever company doesn't rely on AI and data, I think they would lose the race.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of cost involved as well, right? So, uh, are you seeing that the companies are willing to pay a lot more, right? Because all these models require way more cost than if you were to do that simply on your data analytics part, right?
Yeah.
So, are these companies willing to pay as well for the Gen AI or AI capabilities which you guys are providing?
Yeah, I think most companies are paying, like any company that has free cash. I think they are more willing to put their money in this. And the reason they're doing is that most of the kind of the customer experience and everything is driven by real time sort of information, right? So whichever company can, so like if you go back to any sort of macro trend, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can predict that interest would rise, right? Like,
Yeah.
but the company that can predict that sooner would can make those moves, right? So prepare for that. So I think whichever company can move fastest to the data AI and automate certain things, so they will be successful, and they realize that, right? So
Yeah.
whoever can apply, have sort of discretionary money, they would be using that, and we are seeing that across, right? So, and to your point about the cost, so I think, yeah, training a basic LLM model could cost you like $100 million
Yeah.
at the very least. So people are not kind of creating their own models until you're big tech or like you have like billions of dollars in cash.
Yeah.
But most companies can still use like ChatGPT, OpenAI, or a Llama from Meta,
So, okay,
and that is like you kind of pay for subscription, and then you can still augment, right? So there's something called RAG, where
okay,
you can pick up the off-the-shelf model and you can apply your context on it, right? So you can transform it based on your data, your company. So that is cheaper, and that's where the companies are trying out. And I'm sure in finance, healthcare, there might be some compliance issue where everybody would try to create their own model, but we'll see how it evolves in that sector.
okay. That's really good to know. But yeah, going back to interview conversation, what are the three skills or skills you look into the specific person who's becoming, let's say, coming in data analytics or business intelligence? What are the three things if you were to hire them? What would you recommend them to be prepared or equipped with? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I like is like, did I enjoy talking to them? So like,
Yeah.
and it's not just like my personal bias. It's just like
Yeah.
we have a kind of process for that. Like, was somebody like was likable, right? Were they honest? Were they genuine? Like, were they detailed in their answer, right? Were they organized? How did they behave, right? So that beats everything. So because I know we have hired people where we would go back to the debrief and we would say like, I just love talking to him, right?
Yeah.
Because if you love talking to people, they can fit in your company, their team, then you can make them learn anything, right?
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
first thing is the likability or genuineness, or the basic sort of kind of the human behavior where like people like you,
Yeah.
and you don't have to fake it, right? You have to be like genuine, and it comes across, right?
Yeah.
Second would be their critical thinking, like what have they done before, that builds that kind of creative analytical skills. Not being like say data, but if they work say at a Starbucks, right, and they give you an example where they creatively solved something, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
that goes a long way in kind of showing what they are capable of, right? And third would be just the basic understanding, right? So, for example, uh, like if you're coming for data analyst role, like you need to have at least SQL or scripting knowledge, like that's kind of ABC of the learning, right? Like, so you need to know that. And
Yeah.
then I think if you have potential, I think we will not kind of stop or will not hire you because like you don't know the very complex thing, right? Because that's companies' jobs to kind of make you learn or teach you that, or you learn on the job, right? So I think basically, if you have to summarize, like likability, learnability, and kind of the analytical abilities are the three main things I look for.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ankit, thank you for sharing that because when I was going through interview rounds, what I was doing is preparing everything possible, have the best script possible, and I was not breaking the
Yeah,
shell. And this is what I've learned, like yourself, you are a manager in data analytics. I've learned it from executive, and I had to learn it the hard way. Like, just be more just be more
yeah,
authentic or real.
yeah,
And that's what an interviewer is looking for. And we always get it wrong. We always think we want to be perfect. And
yeah.
I don't think anyone is looking for perfection over the how authentic you are, right?
I think one thing I would say is that like it
Yeah.
is absolutely fine to say no. You
Yeah.
don't have to answer all the questions in an interview. Like if you
Yeah.
don't know, you can say no, and just say that's kind of good to know, and you'll work on it and you'll learn that instead of giving some fake long-winded answers. I think
Yeah.
that shows the personality because if you're doing that in interview, you
Yeah.
might try to work around something when you come in the company as well, right? So I think the honesty and
Yeah.
realizing that you don't know something is kind of the not a bad thing. Somebody
That's an excellent
People may
feedback.
like that, right? So
Yeah, so it's guys, so it's okay to say no during interview. If you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer,
yeah,
right? And you can pretty much ask them if there are any tools or any courses you can take
yeah,
to learn those skills, right?
sure, yeah,
So it's just be yourself, uh, prepare as much as you can, but show your realness, right?
yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
that's Ankit's feedback as well.
Yep, goes a
Okay.
long way.
Yeah. So Ankit, how do candidates keep up with, the latest trends or advancements in analytics, such as machine learning,
Mhm.
right? Like the time series model, the regression models, and different kind of models you would see in machine learning. So is there an expectation from somebody who's coming as a analyst or coming in data analytic field? Do they need to know the depths of those market trends? And if yes, how they can learn them?
Yep. So I think the one thing that I do to learn about new trends and technologies is like I join my company's sort of town halls. So that's one place
Yeah.
where you know about everything, right? So if you join a couple of those every month, you get a lot of knowledge about what's happening, different clients, what other teams are doing. So I do that. I read in Gartner because Gartner is one place where you can learn about all the upcoming trends, right? Like what
Gardener.
the tools.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one place where we can always kind of go. You can subscribe to some like journals or some websites that you get information from. So that's like overall trend, what's coming
Yeah,
up, right?
yeah,
In terms of more detail on data science and machine learning, I think there are different models coming up every month, every year, and they fall into some classifications, right? So, like for example, uh, the high level categories. So, like there's a decision tree model, there's a classification model, there is a like right. So, as long as you know the broad category, what different models are doing, every other model is just the upgraded version of that, right?
yeah,
So, for example, somebody tells you this is like a clustering model, right? So you know what clustering does, right? This is like what's the
yeah,
background, kind of the process behind that. So as long as you know that, you can learn different models, right? And now once the model is run, you need to understand what's the output is, right? What's accuracy, what's kind of specificity, right? So these things are kind of the so like if you're driving a car, right, there would be a new advanced car every few months, every few years, right?
yeah.
So as long as you know which is accelerator, what is brake, what are gears, I think you should be able to learn things with.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can keep on, if you know the basics, you can keep on brushing the skills. Yeah. And someone, let's say the market, as you know, the market is a little challenging right now. Even the consulting roles are much lesser than what I
Yeah.
had seen like 2 years ago. Let's say someone's getting rejected over and over, what would you recommend them? Like, would you how should they go back, start from zero and prepare themselves? Let's say they have an interview in March. Do
Yeah.
you have any feedback? How can they start over when they're having some self-doubts that they're not making through the interview process?
Yep. I think first thing is that like don't get disheartened. Like
Yeah,
there are more jobs than there are people, right? So there is one job
yeah,
for you. So I think be positive on that. Second thing is that if you're getting rejected, you need to know what's the reason, right? Like you need to get feedback from your previous company. Try to get like you might find somebody who can give you genuine feedback that why did they hire you, right? So if you don't know what's going wrong, then there's no point applying 100 more jobs,
yeah,
right? Because you're not kind of reflecting on that.
yeah,
So be positive, ask for the feedback, what's going wrong, and then can you improve it? Or do you want to look for a different job that suits more to your skills, right? Like so basically targeting the jobs that you can actually get into is the first thing,
yeah,
or you can prep for, right? So and then yeah, keep applying. Networking is one such thing that most jobs are kind of quickly filled with the internal network. So like if you know somebody in that company, just reach out to them, talk to them, like because it also helps in interviews, right? What the company's culture is, what the core values are, what are they looking for. So so that networking is important. And the last thing is that keep learning, right? Like 4 months, like if you're interviewing March, 4 months are like this is a lot of time, like you can completely learn new languages, right? And like even like consulting companies right now, a lot of companies are hiring apprentices, right? So like from non-traditional backgrounds, even if they don't have like a college degree, companies are hiring, right? So it's not like that you need to be completely perfect for any role. You just need to kind of keep working towards it. So yeah, I mean, just make sure that you're aware what's going wrong, right? That's the biggest thing.
yeah, yeah. And let's say, like you said, if I don't have a traditional background, or even like I don't have data analytics background, and I just graduated from University of Chicago. So do you think I should have some kind of project lined up on my resume, such as, you mentioned about Kegel,
Yeah.
or any kind of specific project I can demonstrate that I have enough knowledge to begin with, right? Is
Yeah.
there a way I can channelize my story that you think I'm a potentially a good candidate?
Absolutely. So I think there are a few ways. One is like participating in say Kaggle contest. You get a
Yeah,
like top 3 rank, right? That's just kind of credentials you can earn. Second thing would be to look for non-profits, right? There are a lot of non-profit in Chicago area that you Chicago work with, right? Or other universities would be working with. So they hire like consultants from the colleges to help them. for free, of course. Like, but you can still learn how consulting works, and
Yeah.
you can show that in your resume. Uh, Third would be the courses, right? Like, do some good courses, get certifications, be active on LinkedIn, post on LinkedIn, right? Like, if you have an opinion about data analytics, post it, right? That shows that you have knowledge, you think about it, you're getting impressions, right? So yeah, there are, I mean, many ways that you can go out there and show. I mean, that's what you can do, right? If companies
Yeah.
don't like that, I mean, it's absolutely fine. Somebody will like you, right? But you can just do whatever you can.
Yeah, so my next question, Ankit, is what are some mistakes people make when they're applying for data analytics job? Have you seen those when you were applying and you might be doing something really long and maybe that was the reason you might have not gotten interviews? Might not be the case, but can you
Yeah.
tell, yeah, some of the,
It's
yeah,
most often the case, but yeah, I would say like the biggest mistake is like applying everywhere with just one resume, right? Like
okay,
every job is different, right? So
yeah,
if you qualify for it, just try to tweak around the resume, make sure that the skills that they require are highlighted in your resume. So
yeah,
work towards that, and then maybe keep your expectations a little bit realistic, right? Like if you don't have like background data analyst, you have to start a little bit like lower in the kind of the pecking order, right? So you need to start from an entry level role and learn towards it, right? So basically understanding your sort of background, your skills, and then where you want to apply, right? One advice I got from somebody is that you cannot run away from your past. So whatever you did before, you have to own it and
yeah,
make sure that how that can be used, right? Either directly or either like in some sort of soft skills, right? So for example, like you might have worked in a different job, but there it taught you like analytical abilities, creativity, talking to people, relationship management, right? So all those things can be leveraged, but you cannot completely reject it because then you're starting from zero,
yeah.
and that's going to be hard.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a good one again. And Ankit, you also mentioned that you finished or you are almost finishing your MBA from Booth, right?
Mhm.
University of Chicago.
Yeah.
How has been the hiring trend you have seen this year? Has it been not similar to what we have seen in the past, or how much do you see a lot of hiring from MBB this year?
It was not like they did hire some people from U Chicago, but it was not like a regular hiring where they would be hiring like 10, 20 people from the same program.
Is there a
So
percentage you would know? Like, do you have
so
any?
that reports comes out like in March when the season's kind of finally over. But it's not like I didn't hear about many people, right? So
Yeah.
like for example, last year or like year before that, last year was kind of worse. But like if like 20 people were hired from the same program, they went to MBB. This year it would be like three or four, right? So I think most consulting companies are hiring, and they would be hiring mostly from their internship. So
Okay.
they already have that, and then companies are hiring for outside US as well, right? So I think one trend I've seen that most people who got into MBB, they were kind of hired from Middle East or some other countries. So I think companies are waiting for something like elections and interest rates, and I think now they will start planning for next year. So I think once a lot of uncertainty is gone, I think things might pick up. So hiring has been slow. Other reason that I have seen internally, like being in the industry, is that the the even the clients are sort of thinking about where do they want to invest, right? So like
Yeah.
they have the money, and most of the projects have been cost cutting
Yeah.
in last few years, right? So cost cutting projects are not even kind of beneficial a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
like if you're working on a long term transformational projects, that's where most of the revenue comes for consulting companies. So
Yeah.
I think it's been kind of the slow on headwinds on both sides.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that's what I saw after my
Yeah.
MBA from Cornell as well, that there have been very less hiring versus
Yeah.
compared to 2 years for consulting firms, right? But like you said, now the trend is changing in the US. There's a new political party, so
Yeah.
we should be seeing some upward trend in hiring as well in consulting
Yeah.
as well, which I'm also looking forward to, definitely. Um, okay. And yeah, so when you are interviewing yourself, is there any kind of balance you see in this person? Okay, he has a lot of technical skills. but I don't see the communication is as great, right? Because when you're client facing, that is the most important part, right? So would you recommend that there has to be a balance between the technical and communication skills? One needs to be hired as a consultant. What are your 2 cents over there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think depends on the role. So like when we say we need good communication skills, we are not looking for like copywriters or like the
Yeah.
right. We're just somebody who can break down the problem into simple terms and explain to the business and clients, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to understand like if the person could actually articulate himself, right? So that's the kind of the skill we are looking for. And of course, like we are looking for balance in a way like they should be learnable or teachable, right? Like they should know at least the basic of it depending on the role, right? uh, so as I said, like we are hiring for non-traditional as well. There, like you're not expected to learn like know a lot more because like you are kind of trained 6 months and it's a different career path, right? But if you're going as an experienced hire, even for entry level role or like associate level role, you need to know at least the basics of the technology or the roles that you are,
Yeah.
right? But yes, absolutely, consulting is all about balance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And your since we are moving towards AI, do you see still heavily rely on your PowerPoint skills, or is there an expectation that you need to have a quick turnaround when you're making those PowerPoints? Maybe like, I don't know, 6 hours. Yeah, because that's what I've heard from my
Yeah.
consulting friends. Yeah.
It depends in what role you are. So, for
Yeah.
example, like when we most of the presentations in consulting is either for selling, so that would be request for proposals, right? And then one would be the when you're kind of done with the project and you are kind of creating showing the value to the client, right? When
Yeah.
you're finally invoicing them. So I think the in bigger organizations you have like hundreds of people working on that, right? So like in my company there would be like somebody leading the kind of the presentation and then different people chipping in with 3 or 4 slides, right? So it's not like that you're building 30 slides deck in 6 hours.
Yeah.
So like you're an expert of one area, you would be asked to create 3 4 and then of course like it has to be like good looking, it has to be in a way that communicates value. You just don't want the fancy looking. I
Yeah.
think when you're designing slides, I would err more on the information side than on the graphic side. So
Yeah.
no, like information should be the prominent thing, right? So I don't feel like it's like that kind of expectation. Again, like in some roles could be like that. Like if
G roles where you
yeah,
need those
yeah.
skill sets, right? Yeah.
So but yeah, but that's not at the kind of associate or analyst level. That's more for the manager, senior managers where you are
Senior
expected.
manager. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because those are the roles I was targeting. And I was like told like your PowerPoint has to be on top, right? Like so that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Because and what about Excel, right? Like I know we have used Excel day in, day out, but with this AI, how much are we still doing the budgets, everything in Excel, then imported into some kind of system? Or is it more of like now we are relying heavily on these Gen AI tools, which you might have seen? Yeah.
I think Excel is still used widely, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's good practice, sometimes bad practice. Like I still see clients like who come to us and like they have their main sort of reporting in Excel, right? So like
Yeah.
they're changing on email and like kind of they have no idea which one is the latest one, right? So even when we move towards the like the all automated BI tools, I think Excel would still be prominently used, and you should definitely know that because like any sort of quick analysis that we do, somebody would export data from Power BI, which they should not do, but they will export that and show you in a meeting on Excel. They would be doing some analysis, right? So I think Excel is absolutely a required skill that you should know. Not like fancy formulas, just like creating quick charts and creating PowerPoints, right? Or like pivot tables. At least do some analysis in that.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, these are one of the core skills.
And as a consultant, if I were to break your day, and but you are a manager level, but let's say somebody who is somewhere, someone has less experience, 1 to 5 years experience, how would their day to day look like? Would it
Yeah.
be more? Yeah, can you explain a little bit about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so like in my company, once you get to manager, it's more like maybe 60/40, like 40% is more hands-on and 60% is more about like talking to people, attending meetings. But somebody who is like early in their career, like it starts generally with the morning sync. So like everybody works in agile, so they have to come back and kind of talk to the team like what they're working on. So like kind of first couple of hours just talking to people, syncing with different teams, attending morning syncs,
Yeah.
and then just people take away the work they have to do uh, that day or throughout the week, and they just work on it, right? So it's mostly hands-on, few meetings here and there, but I would say like out of 8 hours, they would be developing something 6 hours and then attending meetings a couple of hours.
Okay.
It could be opposite for the manager, senior managers.
Oh, okay, it's the opposite. Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, this is a very informative session, Ankit. Because my goal was that if someone's getting into data analytics, they don't have too much experiences, what are the different ways to tap in it? So my last question would be, what's your specific advice for people who are trying to be part of data analytics, specific domain? What um, how should they start, or what should should be focusing in college as well as after college if they have 1 or 2 years of experience and they want to get into big consulting firm? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say the biggest thing is that keep learning. That there's no learning that is wasted.
Okay.
So, like, if you get a chance to do certifications, you get to see like, attend some trainings, learn some new technologies. Keep doing that, whether you are doing in college or outside or on your job. So keep learning new things. Doesn't take much. Like, spend like maybe 1 2 hours a month and just watch some videos and learn new technologies, because that's how you sound more smart and kind of you learn about what's coming, right? And
Yeah.
then if you know what's coming, then you can plan for it, right? So for example, somebody who's in second year right now in the college, right? So if they know that AI is the big thing, they can choose courses that aligns more with AI. So I think just understanding what's coming out there, and then maybe create some plan. Like, I mean, all the plans don't work all the time, but at least as long as you have some idea like what you want to work on, start early and keep learning. It's never too late, but the
Yeah.
sooner you start, better it is.
Okay, perfect. That's a great advice, Ankit. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you sharing for the knowledge you have in consulting. It will be valuable. And if we can even help one person, that is our goal. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for doing this. I think it will be helpful to a lot of people out there. Uh, it was my pleasure to share my 2 cents over the last 10 years. Whatever I've learned, hopefully it
Yeah.
helps. But yeah, thanks for doing this. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
and
much.
if you want to reach out to Ankit or learn more about data analytics, I can give you his LinkedIn and maybe
Yep.
you can connect with it.
Follow
Yeah.
me on LinkedIn, send me messages.
Yeah.
I'll try to reply as much as or as soon as I can. But yeah, happy to help.
Thank you.